There is Wi-Fi here. I don't know if that helps.
I think this should be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, I think we're doing it already.
Yeah.
Amazing audience. This is the value of going live. You get to be uncut, unedit, right? There's no edit on after this, yeah? We're live in Chicago. I mean, in primary school, we used to say the chick in the car and the car go, you know, Chicago. So it's like New York, but I think bigger in some fashion. I'm not sure if New Yorkers are going to get me for that, but it felt
I think it's more spread out than New York City is. New York is very dense. Manhattan is packed.
Yeah, it felt like New York, but just expanded.
Yeah.
Which was fascinating.
Yeah.
Which was fabulous. Which gives us segue for me to introduce Fab. And he's going to pronounce his last name. Let me take one jab. Mackojc.
Yeah, pretty close, pretty on the money.
Let me hear you say it.
Mackojc. Yeah, there you go, nailed it. Yeah, there you go, around the money. Yeah.
So what's up? I mean, great pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Yeah. You are also real, which is exciting. So I don't actually live in Chicago. I'm only just visiting for a short period of time. So it's fortuitous that we are both here.
Love that word.
In the same part of the world.
Yeah, it's amazing, right?
Yeah.
Like, who would have thought, right?
Yeah, exactly. I heard that you were coming to the U.S. and I don't live in the U.S. I live in Australia, but I just happen to be here, and so here we are right now. Yeah.
Your accent doesn't sound Aussie, though.
No, it doesn't. So I actually did spend some time living in the U.S. when I was little. So when I was 10 years old, my family left Melbourne. We came to Houston, Texas, and we lived there for a few years. And I suppose whether it was through puberty or wanting to fit in with my classmates, I picked up an American accent, and all these years later, I still talk like this. And I only stayed in the U.S. for 3.5 years, but that was sort of enough. That was a crucial period of time.
Yeah.
So I don't have a strong Australian accent.
It's there though.
It is, yeah. There's definitely words that come out like that. So Americans don't think I'm American. Australians don't think I'm Australian, and so I don't really fit in anywhere, unfortunately.
I know a Trinidadian just said it. Well, that's intriguing. So we are in Chicago. Where exactly are we right now?
So we're staying in a neighborhood called Lakeview. So Lake Michigan, which is the real big lake right by Chicago, is like just that way, and it's like a less than 5-minute walk. Yeah, it's really close. So we're staying here.
It's a journey.
It is.
So tell me about the journey. Yeah. I mean, the last time we spoke, one of the things you told me about, and I did listen, you were at episode 68, if I'm not
something
mistaken.
like that. Yeah. So I was still working on that podcast, on the Journey podcast, and I still run that podcast to an extent, but things have sort of on the back burner a little bit. So I sort of put that on pause to work on other projects. And for people who haven't listened to our previous episode, and I guess aren't familiar with that podcast, it's something that I started just over 2 years ago, basically interviewing people with unconventional career paths. So instead of someone perhaps going to university and taking a corporate job, I was speaking to people under the age of 35 who were artists, authors, entrepreneurs, adventure sport athletes, you name it. So I guess fast forward to now, and you'll have to remind me, Angel, how long it's been since we spoke. Has it been about a year?
It probably almost a year, because we would have spoken anywhere between September and December 2017.
Yeah. So we'll say
almost
it's about 9 months to a year. So that is a project which I still sort of keep running in the background. In 2018, I've only released one episode. I've sort of changed my focus from doing consistent episodes to sort of using that more as a platform to get to know people better, to interview people I might meet on my travels. I met someone in the Gold Coast earlier this year, and she was interesting, had an interesting story. She was originally from Chicago and was a journalist who basically found a job on Reddit to go work for like a startup in Vietnam, and just left her whole life behind and flew across the world because of a Reddit post. And so we spoke. I spoke to her and got to know her a bit better, and she's now a business owner. And so I guess for me, that's something that kind of is a good chance to maybe speak to people I find really interesting. And I much prefer doing interviews in person. So her and I actually did that interview in person. Like I found that doing interviews online, and maybe you felt this as well, maybe not, it's just harder to make a connection with someone online, and I would rather go for a quality over quantity approach. So instead of perhaps speaking to 50 people online in a year, I would much rather speak to 1 to 5 in person.
That's great. That's great. Person to person is of great value.
Oh, absolutely, right? Because like we're like right here.
Yeah,
right
like
now,
I can get to see your eyes.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah. The facial expressions. Yeah.
I think it's even more accentuated now that I've had so many online conversations. It's like I want to breathe in everything of the conversation, you know, and I'm amazed by everything. Yeah. So you're here now. Tell us, what are you doing in Chicago?
I am. Yeah. So I am in Chicago to do sort of one of my many passions, which is improvised comedy. And so for people who aren't familiar with improv, as they call it, it's a type of comedy which is very different to stand-up, which is one person behind a microphone telling a bunch of jokes. Improv is multiple people are on stage. It's quite theatrical. And they're creating scenes which are entirely improvised. Everything is made up off the top of your head, and ideally it is funny as well. That's the comedy part, right? It's very easy to make things up and not be funny, and so that is something that I was originally exposed to 2 years ago. A friend of mine in New York City took me to an improv show. And I had no idea what was going on. There were people running across the stage, and there were all these like strange conventions that I wasn't sure about. And I was like, "Oh, this is all made up. This is hilarious." And it just looked like a lot of fun, and it was something I wanted to try when I came back home, back to Melbourne. And I did, just over a year ago. I found a theater. I did all of their curriculum. Really enjoyed it, and a number of friends have told me about this program in Chicago. Chicago is sort of the home of improv comedy.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so like a lot of big theaters like the Second City or I.O., Improv Olympic, Annoyance, that they're sort of a lot of big stars in comedy nowadays, like Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Steve Carell. These people all started out in improv, and so it's kind of exciting, I think, to be going and studying at a place where these really big names, people like SNL cast members, people in a lot of big movies and late night shows, these people started their comedy careers somewhere, and that was here in Chicago. And so this particular theater, I.O., runs a 5-week summer intensive. So they take their normal curriculum and they pack it all into 5 weeks. So they're really catering for people like in other parts of the world who want to come to Chicago for a short period of time and learn it all in one hit. And so that is what I'm here to do. I'm doing improv for the next 5 weeks. I just finished my first week and have 4 more left.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
The good thing is improv brought you to Chicago at the same time I'm here, so that works out pretty well, right?
It did indeed, exactly.
Which is an improv in itself, right?
It is, that's exactly. We improvised this meeting, we're improvising this interview. So,
it's amazing. Yeah. One of the segments we cover is your own unique real shoes. And slippers or...
Oh, I am wearing slippers. Is that a good or a bad thing?
It is what it is.
Okay, yeah.
But it speaks to the conversation of people see that and they aren't able to identify or even understand the steps you've taken, the struggles.
Yeah.
Right? So what has been one struggle you've had in the mix of doing everything you are doing?
Yeah, sure. So I... again, to provide people with some more context, maybe with what I do professionally, because improv for me is like a fun hobby of sorts. Some people take it very seriously as a career, and they're geared to a career in comedy. I haven't necessarily said no to that possibility, but as of right now, I'm just doing it for fun.
Sure.
And so, professionally, what I've been doing for a number of years now is web development, software engineering. I spent some time working in San Francisco for Groupon, and so I guess when I moved back home to Australia 2.5 years ago, I was working on a few of my own businesses. I was freelancing, and I guess in recent times, the sort of struggle I've kind of had is this uncertainty about maybe what to do next in my life and my career. I feel very comfortable doing web development. Like I'm good at it. It pays the bills pretty well. It's a life that has afforded me the chance to go travel a lot, to take time off to go do improvised comedy in Chicago. But I think for me, I've sort of grappled and have had this struggle of an uncertainty about whether that's something I want to do longer term, whether my own personality is being fully channeled through something like that. It's not something I would love to be doing days about going back and getting a conventional job, almost for the sake of having that social interaction with coworkers again. You sort of miss out on that. It can be it can be an isolating lifestyle. So maybe that's a long-winded answer, but hopefully gives you a sense of sort of even in the past 6 to 9 months, something I've sort of been struggling with. And this is nice as a distraction almost, because I don't have to worry where my life is going. I just have 5 weeks of fun.
And then you get back to making the decision at some point.
Exactly. So I come back to Melbourne, and I definitely I have web development work if I need it, which is fine. So I'm not in any particular financial struggle or anything like that. But I definitely have this sort of what's next, where are things going.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
When you heard that this guy from the Caribbean was coming to meet you, what did you think?
I was excited, naturally, right? We've already spoken before, and I enjoyed our conversation last time. I heard you were coming to the US. I was ecstatic because I was already going to be in the US. So only excitement. Yeah.
Do you have any regrets in terms of what you've done over the last year, your decisions?
No, I don't have any regrets. I think that I had a business that I was running with a close friend of mine last year, and unfortunately we had to stop working on that business. And I decided to go back to doing web development because that was something that I was good at and something that I knew would be able to help me live and put food on the table. And I had an enjoyable experience over the Australian summer working with an agency, helping them work on a client project, and did a lot of good work and enjoyed that, and decided to stop working on that to go pursue other projects and interests. I don't think I have any regrets per se, but I've definitely thought about this idea that there were times where I felt that on a day-by-day basis I was enjoying myself, but over the period of a month or a couple of months I wasn't sure whether there was something to show for my time and effort. There's I had someone say to me oh, you're not working right now? I would struggle with that. I'd get bored so easily. And I was I have no problem entertaining myself, that I could go read and exercise and just bum around and see people. I have no problem. Not working is not a problem for me. That is not an issue. So I wouldn't say that's a regret of mine, but I think that that's something that I'm mindful of. There's only so many days where you can just take it easy before you ask yourself whether this is what you want your life to become.
It fascinates me in terms of the conversation we have, the insight you have before you do things, right? I remember that earliest childhood memory being where, you were offered to get something from the fridge, you decided not to, and then you returned, right? I would strongly suggest that you continue doing, and how you do that is going to be important. Just my bit of 2 cents, if you would. But I think you'll be good, because sometimes the thing that tastes or may taste the way it seems as though it would taste. So just to give a background, his earliest childhood memory was going into the fridge to get something that he was offered the night, right, when everybody went to sleep, right? Was that it?
It was during the day, but regardless, I was offered something in the fridge, and I did, and I chose not to take it. Everyone left, and I went and got it myself. It
wasn't good though.
No, it tasted bad. I really remember that.
So it's just amazing to see that you're in that place again where everyone is taking something and saying that it's good, and you're wondering still, is that the thing? I mean, you're saying you have so much fun meeting people, bumming around, but at the same time, you're still doing the business that you need to do, right?
I'm sort of struggling to decide, what my life looks like, on a daily basis, on a longer term basis.
But that could be very cool,
It is, it is. I absolutely am very grateful for the life I have, the life I live, the people I have in my life, the family I have, the upbringing I've had. No doubt. Even right now, I should not sound like I'm complaining.
You are not. You're not sounding like you're complaining. It's just that you're just, at that point where you're wandering in the kitchen, right? We're wandering, right? So let's do something quickly. I've never heard what improv or been in an improv situation. Sure. What would it look like? I'm imagining it looks like this, right?
Sort of similar. So, if we were to do an improv scene, basically, it would have at least 2 people. So we're on page with that, and we would basically have one person what's called initiate the scene.
So Amanda could do that, or one of us?
Yeah, so if Amanda was on the stage,
Right.
she could do that, but we could take a suggestion from Amanda for what our scene's going to be about.
What is our scene going to be about, Amanda? Come on. Quickly.
Anything at all, anything that's on
just
your
pops
mind.
to your mind.
Yeah.
The weather.
Okay,
The weather. Great.
So she does that.
Yeah, and so I could initiate the scene by
Right.
saying something to you. I could say like, John, isn't it a lovely day outside today?
We're using names of other names instead.
Well, we're playing characters, right? We
Okay.
could absolutely play
I
ourselves
like
if
John.
we wanted
I
to.
like John.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but
I've just
the
called
goal-
you John,
yeah,
so now you're John.
interesting. Okay, Sean.
Yeah.
So the goal is to make it funny, right?
Absolutely.
At some point.
Yeah. So the challenge with improv is that you don't actually want to try to be funny, right? You should want to be funny, but trying to be funny can make your scenes bad,
Okay.
and they can land poorly. So the thing that I've certainly found as a big philosophy is that there's truth in comedy. You know, it's real things that we laugh about because as human beings we can relate to that. We've seen that. We know what that's like. There are definitely other ways to make scenes funny.
Okay.
But at its very core, it's almost like a simple ping and pong. Like I throw something out there and you throw something back.
I think I'm gonna love this.
Yeah. The main tenet of improv though is this idea of yes and. So if I say something, you should agree to that. That's the reality, and you should add something to it. So if I say like, John, isn't it great what kind of weather we're having, right?
Yes, and I think that today is going to be a great day for us to take a walk.
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what you would do. And so now, like, you've agreed that the weather is nice, that we're friends, presumably, and that the activity we're going to do is walk. That's the yes part and the and part.
And then what would you say?
Well, a walk sounds like a great idea. I'm going to bring the dog as well. I hope you don't mind.
Yes, and you can. So every time I'm doing yes and, or
No, you don't
it's
have
just
to.
the
You don't have to
element
say
of yes and.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay,
so
agreement
originally,
and forward.
Exactly.
All right.
That's exactly agreement and add to it.
All right,
Yes,
cool.
yes.
Yeah, for sure. It's very interesting as a guy from the Caribbean, Sean, to see what carrying a dog entails.
Well, I'm glad you asked because I actually have this brand new device which lets me carry the dog. Do you want to see it?
Yeah, I would love to see it. Ooh, let me touch this.
It's a doggy tray. You just hold it out
Oh,
and just let the dog sit on top.
this will work very well. The tray should have a funnel though.
A funnel.
Yeah, for
Ooh,
the
that's
poop.
interesting. Oh, there you go. Someone's thinking. You should have invented that doggy tray.
Well, my friend,
yeah.
I am fascinated to see other people walk their dogs. And that's not the only element that goes with walking the dogs. So you're bringing your dog, Sean. We need to agree on who's going to pick up the poop.
Well, I was going to walk the dog. Do you want to do the poop pickup?
Well, I could take the bag out of the things I see and hand it to you, though.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. If I took the bag though, you'd be the one disposing of it later, right?
And that's my next question. Where do I dispose of this bag? Being the guy from the Caribbean, where does the bag go?
Well, I mean, you can decide, John. That's the beauty of this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You get to decide. You don't let me enforce this disposal system on you. You're a clever man with your poop inventing tray making stuff. Yeah.
I'm
Please.
thinking the toilet. But then I need to take it out of the plastic bag and dump it in. How does that work?
That would be something that I would call a plumber about. But so hopefully back to real world, you get the idea of how an improvised scene would work, and there's so many nuances that could make that scene richer and better. But at its core, that is us playing people who are not ourselves. and
Amanda, thank you. The weather.
Yeah. Thank you for that suggestion. So
Fab, this has been a great pleasure, my friend. Improv in Chicago. In closing, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
I am here in Chicago myself because I sort of have been inspired a long time ago by a book that I would have talked about last time we spoke called The 4-Hour Work Week. And Tim Ferriss wrote this book over a decade ago. It's the book that has impacted me most of my life. And he talks about this idea of mini retirements. And I want to share this idea with the audience before we leave because most of us live this idea of a deferred life plan, this idea that we will work hard for 40 years, and then we will enjoy ourselves. Then we will have the time and freedom and money to do what we want. But the dilemma with that is that a lot of our best opportunities are when we don't have the responsibilities, when we have all this energy in our youth, and so he presents this idea of a mini retirement at some point throughout our lives, of taking off a couple months to do something that really excites us, whether that's going on that epic vacation, to travel across a country, to going somewhere, to learning a new language, to doing a course, to following a passion like improv in Chicago. And I would encourage people to hold on to that idea and to really think about doing it, because I know a lot of people who work steady jobs and that is great for them, but they have these dreams and ideas that I see keep getting pushed back and back and back and back. And I am very fortunate to have a lifestyle to be able to freelance and stuff, but I definitely am here with other people in Chicago who have taken time off work or who are doing whatever. So I would encourage people that if there's something you love doing and you have a dream and you want to travel to the other side of the world for it, don't put it off. Just do it.
I love it. Yeah, and you could start with 1 week. It doesn't
have
weeks.
to be epic. Yeah, that's right. This program is 5.
Just start. Just start. Amazing audience, thank you. Again, this guy, definitely couldn't keep him to 12 minutes. The improv.
Last time
great.
As well.
Yeah,
same problem.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Fab, thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel.
Thank you for having me, Angel.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Boom!
Boom.